Okay. Good morning, children. And now today we are going to do the Goldrosh law of independent migration finds. It is a topic that you study under electrochemistry, and it is related to the molar and equivalent conductance in the solutions that we just did in the previous video. And today, when we start with this important topic, that is the Goldrosh law of independent migrations, we will be talking about the conductance in terms of the equivalent conductance and the molar conductance. So, beginning with what we have to do today. All right, here we go. We are going to study Goldrosh law. All right. So, spelling is, it goes like this. Goldrosh law. This is how you pronounce it. Law of independent migration of ions. All right. And what is this law talking about is that while investigating the molar conductance values at infinite dilution, all right, you know what is infinite dilution? The dilution which is when we are talking about infinite dilution, we are talking about a solution in which upon further dilution, the conductance is not increasing, be it molar conductance or equivalent conductance. So that is the limiting value. So the molar conductance, if I'm taking for the discussion today, then it is molar conductance at infinite dilution. You can write it like this or you can write it like this. It depends on what you want to use, but this superscript would indicate that it is at infinite dilution. Okay. So that is while investigating the molar conductance values at infinite dilution, Goldrosh found that when salts of potassium and sodium are taken, this is just one pair that I'm talking about, with a common ion, all right? When he took salts of potassium and sodium with a common ion, common anion, I must say, common anion, all right? Common anion are taken, then the difference in their molar conductance at infinite dilution values are found to be the same irrespective of the nature of the anion. Now, what am I talking about here is that if I take the molar conductance value, all right, at infinite dilution for KCl, all right, and I take the molar conductance value at infinite dilution for NaCl. Okay, the value for the molar conductance of KCl at infinite dilution is 149 as recorded in the book, 149.86 Siemens meter square. This is the unit that you use for molar conductance because we are taking molar conductance. All right, and similarly, for this it is this, and for this I will not write the units, just write the values. It is 126.45. Okay, now when we subtract the values of this, all right, then they seem to be equal to the molar conductance value at infinite dilution of KNO3, all right. Like suppose you put a minus sign here, and this minus the molar conductance value at infinite dilution for NaNO3. Okay. If you take the values, this is again slightly less than the KCl because the anion is a little bulkier here. So 144.96, and for NaNO3 it is 121.55. Okay, when you subtract these values, see, I put an equal to sign. The difference in their molar conductance values at infinite dilution were found to be the same, irrespective of the difference in the nature of the anion, and this turned out all the time to be equal to 23.41. That means in this case you can understand that each ion is contributing a definite amount of conductance values towards the total conductance that is taking place in the solution. All right. Now, similar results were also obtained when other pairs of salts were taken and having either of the ions common. Suppose if I now keep the anions common, okay, and we see the difference with the other salts also, then also you will find that the value is the same. Like for example, if I'm taking for KCl and subtracting the lithium chloride values, all right, then also the difference is turning out to be, if I'm taking the molar conductance at infinite dilution for these other pair of salts, all right, then this is also equal to molar conductance at infinite dilution for KClO4, all right, minus the molar conductance at infinite dilution for lithium ClO4, okay, which in all the cases, both the cases turned out to be 34.92. Okay, so it is not only that we are talking about sodium and potassium only, even when potassium is compared to lithium or taken in as pair and compared, the resulting values are the same. The difference in the values are the same, which tells us that, okay, each ion is capable of contributing a definite amount of conductance at infinite dilution. All right, we can take one more example where we can take anions to be different and cations be the same. All right, so let us go for that pair also. And in this case, we will find the same results. So now let us take the case of KCl and KF. We just did an example where we had the anions were different. Anions were same and the cations were different. Now we are doing anions are different, but cations are the same. So in this case, if I'm taking KCl and KF, then we see that in this case also, the difference in the values that they are going to get, like in this case, it is coming out to be equal to 149. If I'm subtracting, let me write, okay, otherwise you will get confused. Molar conductance at infinite dilution of KCl and KF, if we are taking, see for KCl, it is again, we know 149.86, okay, molar conductance values with the units given there, okay, and in the case of KF, it is 129.21. If you subtract the molar conductance values in these cases, then in that case, the difference that you are getting is 20.62. Of course, this is into 10 to the power minus 4. All right, this is 10 to the power minus 4. This is 10 to the power minus 4 because the conductance values will not be so high. And this is also in the 10 to the power minus 4 20.62 into 10 to the power minus 4, units being Siemens meters, meter square, moles inverse. All right. What I'm trying to say is that again, in this case, we have taken the cations, same, anions are different. Now let us compare the same thing for another set. Let us say we are taking NaCl, and in this case, another salt that we are taking is NaF. Remember, the cations are the same. For NaCl, we already know it is 126.45 and the conductance into 10 to the power minus 4 Siemens meter square moles inverse, and same is given for NaF, that is 105.79 into 10 to the power minus 4 Siemens meter square moles inverse. When this is given and the difference is taken, then in this case also the difference was found to be very close to 20.66 probably, I think, and into 10 to the power minus 4. So the difference is turning out to be the same. What we did in the previous case, was the cations were different, anions were the same. Check this, anions were the same. Cations were different and these values were taken. This is 10 to the power minus 4 in the same range, children. This is also 10 to the power minus 4 because cannot go to that high level value. And this will also be into 10 into 10 to the power minus 4 values. Okay, but what I'm trying to focus on is that here the cations were different, anions were the same. But now what we are doing in this case, we are taking the cations to be the same and anions to be the difference, and we find that the difference in the molar conductance values is turning out to be the same, which clearly indicates again the same thing, that okay, they are in a the difference in their values are same, which is indicating that they are all contributing a definite amount. I'm not saying the same amount, but they are contributing a definite amount. If such a constancy in the difference of the molar conductance values of the two salts having a common ion is possible, it is only because each ion is going to make a definite contribution towards the conductivity of the solution, irrespective of the value of the other ion. All right. So Kohlrausch therefore proposed that at infinite dilution, each ion makes, this is the law that he put forward, makes a definite contribution towards the molar conductance values or towards the equivalent conductance values of the electrolyte. That is, taking infinite dilution, all right, the molar conductance of that electrolyte is the sum of the ionic conductances which are characteristic of each ionic species, and this is commonly known as the law of independent migration of ions. So what he meant to say was that if I am talking about the molar conductance at infinite dilution of NaCl or KCl, whatever, then this is actually equal to the molar conductance of at infinite dilution of the ion Na plus ionic conductance plus then molar conductance at infinite dilution of Cl minus. Only then, you know, this difference, the constancy in the difference is possible. So this is what he is saying, that Kohlrausch is saying, that the when we are taking a certain ion conductance value of a certain salt, it is actually equal to the sum of the ionic conductances that make up that particular salt. Now, the next question that arises here is that why is it applicable only at infinite dilution? Okay, why don't we talk about any concentration? See, children, the importance of infinite dilution in Kohlrausch's law arises because at infinite dilution, the interionic attractions practically disappear. What we mean by saying interionic attractions is that suppose you have positive and negative ions both in the solution. If the density of the solution is more, or if they are in close proximity, they are quite likely to attract each other. All right. And if this attraction practically disappears, then the limiting value of the molar conductance or the equivalent conductance can be obtained. If you remember, the molar conductance and the equivalent conductance both increase upon dilution. So how long will they increase? Till what concentration will they increase? They will keep on increasing till the limiting value is obtained. If you remember the graph that we did, the graphical representation for the weak electrolyte and the strong electrolyte, if you remember doing this, then we saw that for the weak electrolyte also it was increasing and then sharply increases and starts running parallel to this axis. For the strong electrolytes also it was increasing, and when we were extrapolating the graph, it would meet the this axis here. All right, it would meet this axis here, which would give, this is the molar conductance values at infinite dilution. You can find out when it is extrapolating this axis here. Similarly, in this case also, when it was extrapolating, you could find out the value of the molar conductance. So at infinite dilution, the interionic attractions practically disappear and the limiting value of the conductance is obtained. This is because the interionic attractions effectively reduces the speed of the ions, and hence it is also affecting the conductance value. Now let's take the two cases, okay, the weak electrolytes and the strong electrolytes. In the case of strong electrolytes, as we had discussed in the previous video also, in the case of the strong electrolytes, the number of ions furnished remain the same, whether it is in a concentrated solution or in the dilute solution. The conductance increases because the speed with which the ions are able to migrate is increasing. All right. So practically, you can say that the conductance in the case of strong electrolytes is the speed or the velocity with which the ions are approaching the respective electrodes. On the other hand, in the case of weak electrolytes, there are two factors. Of course, this is there. The speed will increase with dilutions because the inter-ionic attractions will decrease. But also there is, if you go by the dilution law, the number of ions that are furnished for the weak electrolytes are also increasing. So that also contributes to the increase in conductance. But however, we can now say that in the case of, if we are talking about, let us say conductance, we can now say that the conductance at infinite dilution is actually depending on the velocity of the ion. So there are two factors what we must consider. The charge carried by the ion. Suppose if I'm talking about, let us say Na plus, okay. If I'm talking about Na plus, all right, and I'm talking about potassium, both of them are carrying the same charge. But if I compare this to, let us say, calcium, then this is carrying two positive charge. So the conductance is actually dependent on the charge that is carried by the ion and the speed with which the ion is moving. Okay. So if I'm talking about the same charge, then the conductance of the potassium ion is more than that of the sodium ions because the velocity with which the sodium ions are approaching the electrodes is more. That is, this velocity of the ion depends upon the potential gradient that is applied, and the limiting, or you can say the maximum ionic mobilities are obtained at infinite dilution. Now, if I'm talking again and again about the mobilities, then what are the factors that affect the mobility? All right. So the factors which affect the mobility of the ions are, one, there is a kind of asymmetry effect, or you can say, let us see this. Okay. Let us talk about this. Let us say there is this ion, positive ion, okay, in the solution. And of course, it gets surrounded by the negative ions. And if it is a negative ion, it will get surrounded by the positive ion. Okay, so if this, when the potential gradient is applied, all right, let us say this becomes the negative side and this is the positive terminal, then in this case, what will happen? This positive ion is supposed to move towards the negative and the negative will be attracted towards the positive, all right. If the number of anions are much more, all right, compared to the positive ion, then what will happen? The anions, then once the potential gradient is applied, then the symmetry of this is going to change. The anions are trying to move in this direction and this is trying to move in this direction. So there is a kind of an opposing force. Okay. Secondly, if it is getting surrounded by the negative ions, the attractive forces also have to be overcome. Okay. Thirdly, what happens is that in these cases, when these negative ions start moving in the opposite direction, that is the motion of the ions in the opposite direction will also impart a momentum to the solvent molecules. All right. If the anions are more and if it is moving in this direction, then the solvent molecules also start moving in this direction. Though they are not charged, it is not going for any discharge purpose, but the momentum is supplied or is imparted, and therefore it starts moving in that direction, which creates a momentum of the solvent molecules opposite to the momentum or the movement of the ions. In this case, what will happen? Again, the ions will become a little sluggish or they'll start dragging or lagging. So this streaming of the solvent in a direction opposite to that of a motion of the central or the metal or the central ion would occur, and this would result in the relative velocity of the ion be the relative velocity would be greater than that has been assigned to the ions, because if the solvent was stationary, the movement of the ion would have been faster. But because the solvent is also moving in the opposite direction, the assigned values of the conductance that are given to the ions is actually less than what it should be. Okay. Now let's come to another factor here. I was discussing about the sodium ions and the potassium ions. All right. So you have sodium ions and you have potassium ions, or sodium ions, lithium ions I can talk about. Okay. These are small ions and I'm talking about potassium ion, which are bigger, and you can talk about the rubidium ions, or they are all, see, they are all having single charge. They are all carrying the same amount of charge. But if you compare the values of their ionic conductance, especially for sodium and potassium, you may have noticed that the conductance value for potassium salts are greater than that of the sodium salts having the same ions, right? For example, suppose if I go back to that page and I just explain this to you. Suppose let's come to here. You see the KCl values I'm taking here and NaCl values I'm taking here. You see the molar conductance at infinite dilution for KCl is more than that of NaCl. Meaning to say that in this, when we compare the values, we find that the conductance offered by the sodium ions small as sodium and lithium ions, are smaller, are lesser as compared to the conductance offered by potassium or rubidium ions. Now, the first thing that can come to your mind is that if the ionic conductance depends upon the charge and speed of the ions, and lithium and sodium are both carrying one positive charge, so their low conductance is definitely related to their speed in the solution. Okay, comparing to potassium and rubidium ions, which are heavier ones. Okay, now lithium and sodium ions, okay, should have higher mobilities because they are small. So that sluggishness will be less. It should be less. All right. So lithium and sodium ions should have higher mobilities due to their small size. All right. And because we know that the smaller ions move faster than the heavier ones. But contrary to that, the values that we got are obtained. All right. So this is because that these ions are not bare. Bare in the sense that they are not all by themselves. The smaller are the ions, they get hydrated. All right. So when they get hydrated, like let us say being small, these ions are going to experience strong electric field in its neighborhood, and it will associate itself with larger number of water molecules than the comparing that to so potassium or cesium or rubidium. All right. Therefore, these hydrated ions of sodium and lithium have larger dimensions. These ones, suppose if this is the ion, it gets surrounded by water. Now the entire ion is going to behave as one entity. So it's going to move under the potential gradient. So in that case, what will happen? The dimension of the ion is increased, and therefore now it is moving in a more sluggish way. All right. So you can see that in deciding the conductance, there are so many factors that are contributing. Number one, of course, the charge on the ion, which is very important. And then the next important thing is the speed of the ions. All right. And when we talk about the ionic conductances, then these are the two things which have to be considered. A sum of these ionic conductances will give the conductance of the electrolyte that is in question. Okay. So when it comes to talking about the ionic conductance in the case of, suppose if I'm trying to find out the molar conductance at infinite dilution for NaCl, like I just told you, then this is equal to the molar conductance at infinite dilution, ionic conductance. For ionic conductance, lambda is also used. Then the molar conductance at infinite dilution for Cl minus ions. So together they will contribute towards the molar conductance of NaCl at infinite dilution. Okay, so this is what you are supposed to understand, because it is not what we see is or what we try to understand is when you go into the details, there are many other factors also which are playing. Like in deciding the speed, the asymmetry effect is there, then the electrophoretic effect is there. What is that electrophoretic effect? It is that effect that we spoke about, we discussed about the solvent movement. All right, when a particular ion, whether it is positive or negative, is enlarged, then how it can impart a momentum to the solvent in the opposite direction. So this is what we have to understand. So coming next to the applications of Kohlrausch's law. Now, Kohlrausch's law finds a number of applications, but we will be basically doing the two. The first one is to find the dissociation constant of a weak electrolyte. which is given as molar conductance at any concentration, all right, divided by this. If this is the dissociation of the constant of the weak electrolyte, or it is not the dissociation, it is the degree of dissociation, I'm sorry. This is the degree of dissociation, all right, for a particular concentration, if I'm talking about, then this is given as molar concentration at that particular amount, and this is molar concentration at infinite dilution. With this, we can find out the degree of dissociation. The next important thing that we do in the application is to find out the molar conductance of weak electrolytes. Going back to that again, remember we said that in the weak electrolytes, it is not possible to extrapolate the graph, and upon extrapolation, we will not be able to get the molar conductance with the limiting value, because it starts running parallel to the concentration, the conductance, the molar conductance axis. So how can we apply this to find out the molar conductance of weak electrolytes? Okay, since every ion makes a definite contribution, okay, this concept we will use for finding out the molar concentration of weak electrolytes. Like for example, we can take up a numerical here. Suppose we want to find out the molar conductance of acetic acid. Let us say we want to find out the molar conductance of acetic acid at infinite dilution. This is what we want to find out. How will we find out? The graphical representation will not help. So what we will do is, we will take the alternate method is by knowing the molar conductance of certain strong electrolytes containing these ions, we can arrive at the molar conductance of acetic acid. Like if I want to find out for acetic acid, the values that I can take off are sodium acetate, because we know that all salts of sodium are strong electrolytes. Then we can take molar conductance at infinite dilution of HCl. Then we can take the molar conductance values of NaCl. Now you will say that NaCl is not there. So then in that case, how is it possible? All right. So in this case, you will see that the conductance, molar conductance of sodium acetate will equal to the ionic conductance offered by, at infinite dilution, offered by the acetate ion, that is the acetate ion, I am writing it like this, plus the molar conductance offered at ion of the ion, all right, at of Na plus ions, at infinite dilution of Na plus ions, and its value is given as 91.0 into 10 to the power minus 4, units being the same, Siemens meter square moles inverse. Okay. Similarly, for HCl, it is given as molar conductance at infinite dilution. You can write it like that, or you can write a naught and write H plus the ionic conductance offered at infinite dilution by the Cl minus ions. And for this, we know that the conductance values are pretty high. So it is 426.16 into 10 to the power minus 4. Again, units remaining the same. And this is given as molar conductance at infinite dilution of the ion Na plus the ionic conductance at infinite dilution offered by the Cl minus. All right. So 1 mole of chloride ions, 1 mole of sodium ions, this is how we are talking about. That is the molar conductance of the ions. All right. Na plus, Cl minus, H plus, Cl minus, and all that. Now the question is, why have we taken NaCl when it is not there in the electrolyte which is in question? All right. So we are going to arithmetically make use of this NaCl such that we will be able to obtain the values. Now for this, the value is given as 120. I think we did this 126.45 again into 10 to the power minus 4. Okay. So when it is given like this, now you see in this case, what I can do is I can add this, all right. And if I subtract this, then this can be obtained. Okay. Let us see how. Okay. So let me see if I have to, subtract only the ionic conductances. So if I'm writing molar conductance at infinite dilution of CH3COO negative plus ionic conductance of the 1 mole of Na plus ions, plus we said we're going to add this, so molar conductance H plus ions, okay, plus M chloride ions, infinite dilution always, this is plus, all right. And then we said we are going to subtract this, okay. So when I subtract this, then the value should be obtained. So this I am writing as conductance, ionic conductance of the sodium ions 1 molar, all right, plus Cl minus. So this plus will become minus because we are subtracting the entire thing. So if this is within brackets, then I can write this as, this can be converted to minus. So we'll do that. And we'll write a minus here because we are not using the bracket. Okay. Now you see, this will get cancelled. Sorry, this I shouldn't have done. This Cl minus ions will get cancelled with this one. Sodium ions will get cancelled here. And what are we left with? The molar conductance of the acetate ion at infinite dilution, or the ionic conductance of the acetate ion plus the ionic conductance of the H plus ions. All right. So this together will give us the molar conductance of CH3COOH. This will give the conductance value of CH3COOH. Okay. And this is how we can obtain the values. Now all you need to do is add and subtract accordingly. If this is added, okay, this is added and this is to be subtracted. When you solve these values, the answer that you will get in this case is the ionic conductance of the acetate ions, all right, which turns out to be equal to something around, I think, whatever, when you calculate, the answer should come around 390.71 into 10 to the power minus 4 Siemens meter square moles inverse. That is the unit that we are using. That is Siemens meter square moles inverse. Okay, so what we have done is, if a numerical is given to you to find out the conductance of a weak electrolyte, molar conductance at infinite dilution of a weak electrolyte, then the related salts and or the related electrolytes with their molar conductance at infinite dilution values will be given. All right. All you have to do is write it in such a way that all the other ions get cancelled. Only the conductance value of the ions which are present in the salt will remain. And then you will simply find out. See, I did not individually find out that for the acetate ion, but I can find out the ionic conductance of the acetate ion at infinite dilution, because for H plus it can be calculated or it can be known. Then acetate ion we have already calculated. So when I subtract the ionic conductance of the H plus ions, then I can find out the conductance value of the acetate ion. So sometimes in the question they can give you the ionic conductance at infinite dilution, the molar ionic conductance at infinite dilution for one of the ions, and they'll ask you to find it for the other ion. So these kinds of questions also can be given in the chapter, in the numerical. So what did we do today actually is we discussed the Kohlrausch's law, and we said that Kohlrausch actually made use of the fact that every ion at infinite dilution contributes a definite amount towards the conductance values of that particular electrolyte. That means it has its own definite value of ionic conductance, and using this we can actually find out the conductance values of the weak electrolytes, which are not possible to be obtained from the graphical representations that we do for the strong electrolytes by extrapolation of the graph. Okay. Now, why is it that the ionic conductances are different for different ions? The reason are two. One is the charge. So if definitely the charge is more, the conductance values will be more. The other point is the speed with which the ions will move. If the speed of the ions are to be considered, then what are the factors that affect the speed of the ions in the electrolyte? The factors which affect the speed of the ions in the electrolyte are basically the interionic attractions. All right. At infinite dilution, it is understood that the interionic attractions are practically disappearing, or we can say they are the least. Okay. And in that case, what happens? The mobility of the ions is maximum. And that is the limiting value that we study in Kohlrausch's law. Now, in the case of ions which are smaller or larger, because that question should come to your mind, that if I'm talking about the difference in the molar conductance values of the sodium salts and potassium salts, shouldn't the sodium salts have a higher values? That is not the case. Why? Because there are other factors also which get involved, like the hydration of the ions, which is one of the important ones. And the combined effect of all this is that the velocity of the ion can be reduced. And if the velocity is reduced, the conductance values are also getting reduced. So this was one thing that you need to understand here. And this is everything that you need to know about the Kohlrausch's law. And you can practice out a few numericals to see if you can solve them. And they're simple numericals. The only thing is that you must know how to make use of the electrolytes that are given. Sometimes in the question, especially if it's a competitive level exams, or these kinds of questions are there, then they may give you, suppose you want to find out for acetic acid, and they may give you 4 salts, which from these 4 salts, strong electrolytes, which 3 you will select for calculating your answers. That you will be able to do only if you have understood it correctly as to how we have to apply the Kohlrausch's law to find out the value of the molar conductance or the equivalent conductance at infinite dilution, okay, of the weak electrolytes. So this is all for today, I guess, and maybe in the next class or the next video, we will be doing the another topic from electrochemistry. Let me see what I'll start with. Either it will be the electrode potential or maybe the electrolytic cell and the representation of the ions and the Nernst equation. Okay, so thank you children for being there.